Whenever we teach workshops, the corrective exercise question comes up and we try to take that right to a hands-on experience. Now, what I want to do is give you guys hands-on experience with 3 different situations: a mobility problem, a motor control stability problem, or a symmetry problem. Now, how do we get to those problems? Well, we could ask a question and get a verbal answer, but how many times do our clients and patients and athletes really know what's wrong? Well, we also want to ask a nonverbal question of their body, and that's what screening is all about. And sometimes people are so intimidated by all the tests we do in screening that they don't even know how to get started, so they pick and choose correctives based on their opinion or questions they ask. But I want to ask your body some mobility and stability and symmetry questions. So what I'm going to do is take 3 real-life examples, and we're going to go down a mobility path with somebody who needs more mobility, a motor control path with somebody who needs more motor control, and we're actually going to challenge a symmetry path where we often find problems that don't get picked up just by mobility and stability. See, symmetry is a big problem, and we never even saw that till we started this journey into functional movement. And we're always going to use a test-retest. How many people get a corrective exercise and apply it? We don't. We try to create a corrective experience first. That's where we figure out dosage, and that's where we learn to coach the people that we see. So we're going to create an experience. It's going to be tested, retested, and if it works, it will then become the corrective exercise. I'm not going to tell you guys how to do this. I'm going to be busy coaching, so let's go. All right, Kyle did a couple of tests. He did an ankle mobility screen and a motor control screen, but Kyle, mobility got you. And I know since we call our test ankle mobility, it's like your ankle's the only thing, but it's not. Your tight ankle is actually indicative of a tight pattern that may exist in your hip and your T-spine, a lot of other places. So the very first thing we're going to do is put your foot right in the center of that beam, okay? And I'm going to have you reach to all 4 points, 2 on this side of the beam, 2 on that side of the beam. So I'm just going to be talking to you while you do that. Reach as far forward and backward as you can, and you got to cross over on each side of the beam, okay? Reach as far as you possibly can, and there's no right or wrong way to do this. Try it one more time on that foot and then switch. Now notice, I'm not telling Kyle how to do this. I think it's implied. Reach as far as you can and don't fall. You good with that? Okay. Try it on the other side. Now, what Kyle's doing is he's actually on a path or an experience. I'm making him discover some things about his own body I already know. How do I already know? Because we took the time to screen, we took the time to measure, and we took the time to set a baseline. And the only way I can challenge his opinion about what he's doing is to have some facts to go along with his feelings. And if he feels like he's symmetrical, but I got facts saying he's not, or he feels like he's mobile and I got facts saying he's not, we're going to work through that together. So I'm not assigning him this as an exercise. I'm giving an experience. All right, Kyle, you okay there? Yeah. Now, that's your move A. And I call that a 4 points reach, but I want you to reach in a different direction now. Want you to go back to the center of the beam, but face this way. Do the same 4 reaches on each foot. Now, I'm going to coach you up a little bit here. It's real easy to want to take your weight on your arch or something. I want you to back up so your toes, right there you go, right there. All right? If he's any more forward than that, we're going to have a problem. I'm really making him use the ball of his foot and not ground that heel. Now you're wondering, how does this actually look like mobility? This looks a lot more like balance and stability. And that's where I think people make a lot of problems with functional exercise. When they hear mobility problem, they think everything has to be lengthening or stretching. When they hear stability problem, they think everything has to be planking and holding. And that's not it at all. You gain an inch of length and you gain an ounce of strength. Same thing there, Kyle. It's really easy. As I said, go on forward and weight bear on that arch. Go on forward, weight bear on that arch. The first few reaches, you'll actually be more stable and easy, right? Yep. But you're not working anything. You're resting on the tight ankle. You're not challenging the tight ankle. So back it on up, make those toes work. A stronger foot allows a more mobile ankle. A weaker foot demands a more stiff ankle to protect it. So if we're doing a little foot strengthening to make your ankles more mobile, there's your answer. Good. Once you've got 4 on each side, 4 reaches on each side, if you got that good left-right comparison, The only real thing I want you to leave this station, move A from, and it's a 4 points reach, and I call this sort of a long arch, and I call this a short arch. You had to use your foot in 2 different ways over an arch. What are you aware of so far?
My right side.
Your right side? Okay. Yeah, there's an obvious difference in his ability on the right and left side. That's the end of conversation. We don't need to know why right now, but I want to put you in move B, and that's the one where you've got your ankle sort of pre-dorsiflexed, and I really love this move. Go ahead and get in that position. Better than you challenging your own dorsiflexion. Now, in the old days, don't use the roll first, back up. In the old days, we just used to have people stretch their ankle, but everybody goes to an arbitrary place and it's hard to see. When I put his foot up on this roll in this way, go ahead and do that. Now, I squared him up, so this back leg is actually parallel to the foam roll, and he's lined up. And I want one hand on each side of your knee and just reach as far as you can. Try to reach for my stick right there. His ankle is pretty much locked up and he's reaching over, okay? And come on back. And really just face away from where you're, put your hands all the way up. Now bring those hands back down and reach right over top of that ankle again. Good job. Up one more time. Inhale as you go up. Exhale as you go down. I'm not giving him too much information, but I'm adding a little bit each time. See if that exhale helps you get a little bit further. Good. Now I'm going to give you one more advantage. Slide your foot down the roll, slide your knee with it, and instead of reaching over your knee, both arms on the inside of your knee. Go ahead. Use that breath to your advantage. Out on the way down, in on the way up. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Good, and come back up. Do one more there and then switch sides. And when you switch sides, start back at that reach over position. You already know how to use your breath, so go ahead and employ that right away. Square that back leg. Good job. All right. Now we're preloaded into dorsiflexion, so a lot of people are going to feel extremely limited here. But you also realize this isn't just an ankle problem anymore, even though the ankle is the test that caught you. If the ankle's stiff, we know in most cases that hip's going to behave a certain way and that T-spine's going to behave a certain way. And if you got one ankle tighter than the other, you're not going to have many match sets all the way up the top. Move that foot out, really leverage your breath and reach inside. That inside reach is where you're really going to get to that hip and realize this isn't just an ankle problem. This is about 3 problems stacked on top of each other. They're not going to go away in one day, but we may have a measurable difference in a single session. And that's the way I want you to think about your corrective experience. All right, good. So you're feeling more hip right there, right? All right, Kyle, come here. What did you notice when you got to move B? I gave you that exhale breath and you started syncing your breath with your movement. That's yoga 101. And how many of us get into a stretch and don't realize on our tightest side, we're also breathing shallow or even holding our breath in some cases. So always bring your breath to that station B, breath, they match up. Now, I just want to check your control. And you like walking around with stiff ankles. Part of your sport, part of your training has gotten you there and it's okay. So I'm going to have you come to the front of the roll, feet together, heels up. So now in this situation, when I ask you to squat down, it's actually a deep knee bend. It's a deep knee bend because basically your heel is not on the ground. Your heel is floated or elevated. So go ahead, use your arms for a counterbalance, but just go into a deep knee bend. Sit deep and wide. Really sit deep and wide, but keep the forefoot flat, the heel's flat. Good. Come back up. Again. Sit deep and wide. A lot of people find just by taking those knees apart a little bit more, you can go deeper. Good spine angle, come back up. This isn't a lift, guys, so you notice I'm not coaching his back position or anything else. Back up on the roll, Kyle, and get your feet on the top of the roll, and I'm going to let you do the same move again. Back them on up even more. Back them on up even more. If those toes are hooked too much, you won't really get that foot challenge. Now, he's going to have a hard time keeping his heels off the ground back here. But those heels shouldn't hit the ground and they shouldn't be up in the air. So repeat the same move without the training wheels. Now while he's doing 2 of these, I really want you guys to understand sometimes we go with mobility so hard that the body resists and it doesn't want to give up mobility because we don't make you use the few things we gain. What we did in Move A is we made Kyle aware that he had a left-right difference. He had a mobility problem in both ankles, but one was way worse than the other. And that's all I needed him to know, an appreciation that I don't even balance as well on one side, okay? And that's how your mobility is affecting you, all right? Pretty challenging right there? Good. Now, we're going to let you do a lunge on this roll, and your front leg rides the roll and your back leg is on the floor. Now, if you can't go this narrow, you're welcome to step outside a little bit, but if you can stay narrow, I think you're going to find out some things. So let's check your control and get your distance right and just go down in a lunge, okay? Good. Now, look forward. Let your feet tell you if you're upright or not. Work it out. There's no speed, but what did you learn about breathing? When you're going up, inhale, and when you're coming down, exhale. See if that helps you a little bit, okay? And it's okay, if you want a little bit of a stick, use this for a few reps and then dump it, all right? But sink your breath, don't worry about your balance. Relax. Good, blow it out. Good job, good job, let me have that. Okay, give me 2 more right there and then switch sides. Sink your breath, don't worry about your balance. Good job. Now, some people may need to hold these sticks for a month. Some people may dump them in 3 seconds. It doesn't really matter as long as we're aware of the problem, we sync our breathing, and then we demonstrate control. And he's just going through squats and lunges, the 2 basic movement patterns that incorporate any new degree of ankle mobility whatsoever. Yeah. Still got that left-right difference, right? But we won't know what changed just in this little sample unless we do a retest. But come look at the board real quick, Kyle. Before we do anything else, before we talk sets and reps or anything, I honestly think this could serve as a warm-up and cool-down for you. And on a day when you're not working out, this could actually be your thing. But instead of going through it once, you go through it 5 cycles. Okay, so on an off workout day, you just sand that board until those ankles are right. But Move A, get awareness every day of how these legs feel. Do they feel like a match set? Do I struggle more? It's okay to work a little bit more on one side. Never forget your breathing and always reach for a mark that can move. So put something on the carpet and keep pushing it out when you're reaching there. When you're going for control, don't fight it and don't rush it. Go slower, sync your breathing. You're going down, breathe out. You're going up, breathe in. And then when we do a retest, we're going to reflect what changed, what didn't change, and let's stay on that path. Because in a week, this is a whole different thing. And if all you do is reduce your left-right imbalance, we're working with something, okay? Okay, I'm going to be coaching Lee right now because Lee did actually well on ankle mobility, but when we got him on balance and motor control, we saw an asymmetry, okay? Doesn't matter why. His initial corrective session is more about what he becomes aware of and less about me issuing sets and reps right now. So Lee, we're going to get your dosage and I'm going to run you through 3 different stations just on that foam roll. Now the very first one, I want you to lay across that roll so it's supported, your whole back, your spine and your head is on that, facing that way. Okay? Now, it's really important when we have a foam roll like this to realize most people will lay down and their full spine won't touch the foam roll. And it's okay if the back of your neck right here doesn't touch the foam roll, but the part of your back that's right under my marker here, that's got to be on the roll. So every vertebrae needs to be sort of on that roll. Now once you've done that, Lee, you've got a good support right here with your arms, and just in that position is perfect. Bring your legs up, but keep that low back flat. Sometimes that is the awareness people have to get. And let's say, Lee, you couldn't do this. If I lift my legs, I can't keep my low back flat. All right? All right. Are you aware of that? Yep. Then this station has served its purpose. He can't even lay back flat on the roll. But if you can, Lee, what I want you to do is just sort of play with your limits of stability. That means let your knees windshield wiper, but don't let your upper body or head or neck respond. Let your body become the anchor and let your legs just float left and right. There is no right answer here. Whether you can go 6 inches or 2 inches or all the way to the floor, it doesn't matter. Are you symmetrical? Is it fatiguing you? And is your back coming off the roll? Yeah. Nice job. All right, do you feel pretty level or equal going left and right?
Yeah.
Okay, the first thing I want to do is take your hands and move them like the hands of a clock. And we use this position because this is arms in a different position. This is a completely different T-spine task. And now when you rock back and forth, things may change. When his arms were out to the side, if you rock back and forth and feel a difference, that's a very, very obvious difference. But sometimes we get subtle differences. So once you've gone left and right a few times with your arms, switch the position. So just move the clock face the other way. This hand's up, that hand's down. Does the clock face change the way that you can go left and right?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Much harder here.
So even though we know that from a past history, you've got a hip thing, you're actually seeing a T-spine counter to it as well. So I'm talking to Lee, not necessarily telling him how to do this move, but just letting him become aware, because when we come full circle back to this move, if your breathing or your control has gotten better, you'll be aware of it right here. You know exactly how this feels now, left and right. Now, I also want you to explore your stride. So we just got through looking at the upper body part of this thing. Let's look at the lower body part. So take that hand right there and grab that knee. Now you're going to help yourself keep that low back flat, and I want you to get as long as you can from that big toe to that index finger right there. Really get long, but balance is still a responsibility. And when you get as long as you can, let that knee bend just a little bit and kiss the floor so you'll know how far from the floor you are on each side. Come back to that position and do it about twice, and then I'm going to get you to switch sides. Take your time doing it, but explore your stride. You just explored sort of your wobble or your windshield wiper, and explore that stride. I honestly think sometimes we go so quick into exercise after screening with people that they never have a chance to become aware or embrace the thing we're working on, and they're always asking, well, does it look better? Did it change? He's going to know because I'm giving him plenty of time to be aware of it. Screens and tests and measurements help us keep up with the objective data. But the way it makes him feel, and if he can actually feel himself getting better and we can measure it, that's a double confirmation that we're asking both a verbal and nonverbal question, and we're getting better continuity about movement. And after doing this for as long as we have, a lot of times people's biggest problem with movement is the awareness of what they can and can't do. And I think that has just as much to do with injury risk as anything else. They get into exercises and situations in life that they don't have the mobility and stability to cover. Cool. Now come on up from there, Lee. Now, in your awareness drill, between your wobbles and moving the clock face and doing your strides, what's your difference? What do you got?
I guess significant difference. Kind of controlling going to the right.
Control going to the right. How about legs going down? Does one leg go down?
Yeah, it's a little harder with my right leg going down.
Okay, well, as long as you know that, you've sort of got a mental note of that, we're basically going to go, and I'm going to get you to put your knee up far on this roll and let your foot just drift to the inside. So that flat lower leg on that foam roll should be comfortable, and just move your knee till it's in a comfortable position. The one thing I want you to remember when you set up is never put the foot to the outside and never try to balance it on the roll. This is unnecessary. That little bit, most of the weight's going to be on the knee, and this is a much more anatomically correct position to do that, okay? Now what I'm going to get you to do, Lee, is just stick your leg straight out behind you and be as long as you can from the top of your head to your foot. Now bring that foot up and take as big a bite out of your step as you can, and now go up into a vertical spine and reach for the ceiling and be as tall as you can there. Good. And now I'm going to have you go back, hands on the ground before you move the foot. Now move the foot and reach back. Once you can do that position going from a horizontal to a vertical, I want you to explore the extremes. So when you come up this time, go ahead into that slide and really get onto that ankle. This heel stays down and you open up that hip. Come back upright, put the hands on the ground, and now as you reach back, keep on going. Keep on going and be as long as you can. Always explore the compact range first and then stretch it out. Now, Lee, I'm going to tell you one other thing. When you're going down and back, let all that air out. And if you can keep that air out until you're headed back up into a vertical position, that's when I want you to inhale. That inhale sort of creates that intra-abdominal brace and actually just helps us fill our lungs and use our diaphragm to actually be a secondary stabilizer, and sometimes sinking that breath with emotion is all it takes. So once you've got a few cycles and you see maybe how your breath can advantage you right there, I want you to switch to the other side, do the compact motion first, and then open it on up. Exploring those end ranges or limits are where you may have an appreciation, but the second appreciation is how much does sinking my breath help it, and usually on your stiffest side or least mobile side, is where you're probably not syncing your breath as well as you could. One other thing. A lot of these programs look like we're doing a lot of mobility and stability, and a lot of people get confused. But a control issue sent Lee here, not a mobility issue, even though it looks like we're doing mobility. A functional path or a functional exercise is named by what it produces on a test, not by what it looks like in reference to exercise. And so as we start correcting movement, and we've been doing this for a while, we realize leveraging an experience like this is very, very important. Now, Lee's been syncing his breath, he's been going through the extreme motion, and we're gonna get him to go into a basic stepping pattern. So Lee, I'm gonna have you square up on the roll and turn around and face this way, both knees on the roll, and a little bit more narrow if possible, almost in your standing stance. So if you just come up and you want to bring those knees in even a little bit longer, a little bit more. Now, I'm going to have you in one motion try to pick up your right leg and step across the roll and then put it back once you've achieved balance stepping across. So just step across and go back. Good. Other side. And go back. Now, sync your breathing with it and see if that makes a difference. Inhale as you're stepping, exhale as you're returning. Now, once you've done that, I want you to take your hands and put them up for no other reason than to make yourself be more vertical. And look at all this weight I put up above his head. His center of mass just went up. Going to challenge his balance a little bit more, but I think he can cover it. If he can't, we just became aware of something. See if your breath can help it. A lot of people, when those hands go above their head, they start holding their breath. They're apical breathers, and you just took away a lot of what they're doing. This is a good teaching point for somebody who gets worse with their hands above their head. Other than the extra weight being above your head, it may change the way you're breathing. Now, let's get real functionally. When you go to stride or step, which arm would it feel better to throw? If you're going to step with this leg, which arm do you want? Good. Do that, but here's what I want you to do. Don't just lift this one, extend this one. So really get into that oppositional pattern. And once again, exhale on the step, inhale on the return. You don't have to exaggerate those arms, but watch how sometimes just the breath in that upper body complementary pattern really make this work. And don't rush it now. That same pattern, but you could do it super slow. You don't have to rush anymore. You've actually got better stability doing this. Now, there's one other thing we can do. You can do this by loading your toes back here or not loading your toes. There is no right or wrong, but if I see you overly dependent, grinding your foot into the floor or doing your toes, I'll do them both. Okay? Come on back up. In your first drill, laying flat back on the roll, you went through some things and you had some differences. Every day it's going to be a little bit different. Some days you're going to be dialed in, some days not. The days you're not dialed in, spend more time there. Okay? Go to the breathing drill and just go through that up-down motion. That's gonna have a whole body effect, just not your hip, not your T-spine, the whole integrated thing. When you get to this control drill, it's really easy for people to hold their breath when they're stepping because that's a brace, and we don't need to plank here, we need to flow here. Now, your real confirmation is if you run through this one time on the bedroom floor or at the gym before you work out, when you come back to that move, it's gonna feel better. We're going to make sure that is because we're going to go back to your basically control test and we're going to retest you real quick. But when we see that improve, this is your program. This is your warm up. This is your cool down. This is your light day thing. Jessie actually passed both mobility and the control test. Her balance was good and her ankle mobility was good. So that means you may still need a corrective, but I'm okay with you being on your feet the whole time because I'm not seeing major problems in the way you bend at your ankle or balance on one leg. However, it doesn't mean you're perfect on the movement screen or perfect on a Y balance test or anything like that. As a matter of fact, with only 2 tests, the one thing I can say is I'd love to challenge your balance and symmetry in more functional patterns. So we're not going to get down on the ground because I'm going to stress you all on your feet. Having said that, I just want you to be aware of what's going on. I'm going to give you a few rules, but I'm going to let you sort of figure it out. First position is right in the center of the roll, feet touching each other, really close together. Go ahead and put your toes up. Go ahead and take a little bit bigger bite than that. You got plenty of mobility. There you go. Okay, now, if you just want to bend down and touch your toes one time with both hands, I want you to know what that feels like. Just go ahead and like you're going to touch your toes. And you're really, really flexible, and it's just easy for you to keep your knees locked and sacrifice and bend your back. But I'm going to do the exact opposite for you. So come back up to the ceiling. And the very first thing I want you to do is soften your knees so much and put your rear end back so far that you hold this position as long as possible. Okay, so get as close to your feet as possible, hold that position, soften those knees, soften those knees, soften those knees, soften those knees, soften those knees. And now when you bend down, it's this part of your back, not this part of your back. So it's okay to look down, I want you there. So come back up. Now the only curveball I'm going to throw you is, your balance is good, your mobility is good, so this hand goes up, this hand goes in the small of your back. When you're down, observing those same rules I gave you before, you can only switch your arms at the bottom. Go ahead, do that. Good. Go on down, drop that head a little bit, and once you're comfortable, switch those arms at the bottom. And come back up. And I want you to cycle through that so you've done it at least twice on each arm, okay? Start now. Now, a lot of questions come up, why are we switching at the bottom? Well, a whole lot of people who maybe have balance or core or stability problems use their back, their neck, their traps to hold themselves up all day. A hard day you feel right here, right? Well, I'm having you switch at the bottom because your arms aren't obligated to hold you up at the bottom, okay? And it's real easy for you to exploit your mobility and sort of compensate for stability. But by slowing you down and sort of throwing you off balance a little bit and making you bend where you're supposed to, not where you're not, you're actually getting some value from this, okay? Nice switch at the bottom. Now, I know you want to go for the floor, so go ahead and do that, but just follow all the rules, okay? One more cycle and go for the floor. As deep as you can, but let that neck go on down too. Look so you can see me back here with the stick. Good. It's okay to round the upper part of that spine. It's just not okay to round the lower part of that back in this position. Good. All right. Now stop right there. Are you aware that one arm being up or down is easier than the other, or are you just a little bit challenged holding the positions?
Challenged holding the position.
Good, so the arms didn't mess with you as much as just having to not sacrifice your back all the time. Good, all right. I want you to step across the roll so your heels are up, toes are down, those feet are touching. Now, you're gonna do the exact same toe touch, and this always gives people a little bit of a thing, but I'm gonna add a squat in the middle, okay? So you're going to touch your toes, drop into a squat position, come back up out of the squat position, and then stand up, okay? But you still gotta do the arm switch, all right? Good. Same toe touch. Don't even think about the squat till you're touching the toes. At this point, now drop into a squat position. Good. Come back out of the squat position. Drop that head. Now's when you switch the arms. And come back up. Now you keep doing that for a second, alternating back and forth between the arms so we've got at least each arm reaching twice. Don't forget to keep that neck in a comfortable and relaxed position. When your butt goes down, you can look up. When your butt's going up, I want you to look down. There you go, and sync that motion. Now really all this does is it takes away your comfort zone. When your toes are up, that's a little different than you're used to. When your heels are up, that's a little different than you're used to. When your heels are up, we can also get into that squat without overstressing you. But getting that upper body synced, keep that upper body relaxed. Good. Now as you come up, I want you to inhale. Big inhale. And as you're going down, I want you to exhale and add that to the sequence now. And when you get in that squat position, I want you to pause right there. Okay? Now, before you go on your journey back up, take this hand and reach up in this direction and turn and try to see me behind you. Take note of how that feels and how far you go. Good. Now, don't let me interrupt your exercise. Go back to the toe touch position, switch your arms, come back up, and don't forget to inhale on the way up. Now, go back down, and we're going to do the same thing, but you're going to wave at me over the opposite shoulder. So drop into that squat position. And a little bit further on that side. Okay, good. And now, really watch that low back. You're starting to stiffen your legs and round your low back. So that's the one thing I want you to be aware of, and use your breath to help you out. And inhale on the way back up. Good. Take a breather for a second. All right. In that first drill, you weren't really aware of anything, no left-right difference. It was just difficult to not sacrifice your back. That could be one of the things you want to carry to your next workout, cardio, weight training. In move B, I want you to really learn to dump that air when you're flexing and use that air to help you gain stability coming back up. And when in doubt, go slower right here. I know you want to rush through because you're on a balance beam right here. It's stressing you out, but use your breath to make that thing easy. Don't breathe shallow and rush through it. Now, the control drill, I'm going to throw a curveball to you. You're going to be doing an asymmetrical move with your upper body and lower body, but you got the mobility to handle it. The only thing that could get you is if you go too fast or breathe out of sequence. Otherwise, I think you'll be able to get this. And the way we do it is one heel is up and one toe is up. And it doesn't matter which arm sequence you start with, but you're going to actually do this toe touch thing. You don't have to do the squat anymore, but you're going to alternate arms 3 times, okay, in this stance, and then you're going to switch your stance and alternate arms 3 times, okay? Go ahead. Here you may notice a left-right difference, but instead of naming one body part for that left-right difference, it's better just to say, hey, you organize much differently. And don't forget to relax that neck a little bit, okay? I like the tension here. I don't like the tension here, okay? Let those feet wobble. Go slow and inhale on the way up. Exhale on the way down. It's really hard to fight that urge to rush through an unstable situation, but if you will add breath and you will slow down, you'll realize you're going to work all the right muscles you've been needing to work a little bit more anyway, and those are your stabilizers, okay? Now, had we done a full movement screen on you, we may have found some asymmetry or something like that. But from a basic mobility and stability standpoint, you passed ankle mobility and you passed a motor control test for balance. So there's no reason why I wouldn't think you were safe to do your entire routine in standing, which is going to be totally convenient for you, because if you do have stability problems, you actually have to do this more often than the person with mobility problems. This is your warm-up. This is your cool-down. This is how to find out if you're lined up for today or need to spend a little extra time on your breath and balance. But these are pretty good indicators of your stability and how you're going to test next time we take you back. Really get that stance together good. And at least 3 arm switches. We see a lot of people rush to this position because it is so challenging, but I'm telling you, if you flunk ankle mobility and you try to do this, you're going to be working on a lot of things you don't need to work on. And if you actually have a measurable balance problem, it's probably ambitious to try to start here. But if you pass both those tests, I think you will easily be challenged. Good. In a functional way. Let that neck relax, but hold that low back position and hip position. Even though we tell you to keep the feet together, sometimes your best amount of stability is keeping a little space between those knees, okay? That'll help you out. Soft knees, organized back, but you don't have to have a tense back. It's just organized. Good job. You're really sitting back into your hips better, okay? That asymmetrical stance is going to light up your feet. Nice job. Way to remember to relax that neck. That's okay. That's why your hand's down there, is to catch you. And get that breath on the way back up. It'll help. If you feel wobbly, just the bigger inhale, the better it'll be. Nice job. Come on off of there. Now, you had this stance and you had that stance. Was there a difference?
Yes, but forward was easier.
Okay. And was that the one you started with or finished with?
The one I finished, I believe.
Okay, because sometimes it's just the fatigue, but if there is a left-right difference, then that's one of the things I just want note to self in your control. We're going to retest you and all this kind of stuff, but unless I tell you different, That's your warm-up, that's your cool down, that's your light day workout, is just basically put something on TV, put on a song, and just go through that. When we look at stuff like yoga or Pilates or any type of mat work, it's usually assigned in a general consumption. This is lined up right for something that you can do. You have average balance and average mobility, but it doesn't mean you got average symmetry. And one of the things that we learned doing movement screening is even if you don't have mobility, flexibility, or balance or stability problems, you can still have left-right differences in your body. You can have a normal part and a super normal part. And we need to organize that too. And so that's going to get easier for you, and your workouts are probably going to go smoother if you organize first. Strength's not a problem, flexibility's not a problem, stability's usually a problem, right? There you go. Okay. So there you go. That was a sort of a real-time experience of what a test-retest situation looks like. And sometimes I think we make corrective exercise way too complicated. I had 3 cases here, and they were actually real-life cases. We had an ankle mobility problem, we had a overall stability problem, and we had somebody who had a little bit of a challenge with symmetry moves. And what we were able to do is take some down and dirty tests like ankle mobility and motor control and put people in 3 groups. This will lend itself to group exercise. And for the last 3 years, I've been using a half foam roll from kindergarten to 100 people in a convention center in Beijing, and a lot of athletics and industrial situations in between. That simple speed bump, that little half foam roll, if you will, creates just enough obstacle when used in a developmental way and a symmetrical way to help people get more aware, leverage their breath when possible, and actually cycle through. I want you guys to get creative with the structure and core of this, but don't get so far off the reservation that we lose the purpose of correctives. They're supposed to make quick and appreciable awareness changes as they also make movement changes. And that was the one thing I try to do in my coaching session. One of the things I always tell myself is, shut up and start coaching. And what that means is I'm not telling people how to do these things. I'm introducing them to an obstacle that I'm pretty sure they can handle if they just stay more aware, if they control their breath, and if they slow down. And I've been using these for the last 3 years as correctives. I want you guys to play with these in real time with people who have these challenges when screened appropriately. Thank you.